Maya Rodriguez never imagined that losing her husband would mean losing everything else. When the funeral flowers were still fresh, her in-laws threw her and her 2 children onto the street, calling her trash. What they didn't know was that their dead son had secrets, offshore accounts and trust funds worth $200 million. Rain fell steadily on Riverside Cemetery as Maya stood beside the mahogany casket, one hand on 8-year-old Tommy's shoulder, while 6-year-old Sarah clung to her leg. Eleanor Rodriguez stood across the grave in her black Chanel suit, cold blue eyes never meeting Maya's. Beside her, Richard checked his Rolex impatiently. Behind Maya, motorcycles sat silent. Her Hells Angels family had come despite the obvious hostility. Big Jim had driven from Sacramento with 5 other members. Neither child understood why Grandma Eleanor wouldn't speak to them. The minister spoke about Marcus's childhood, his bright future, before he'd lost his way. Maya's jaw tightened. As if loving her had been a moral failure. Marcus had been 25 when they met at Sturgis. She was 22, a mechanic covered in grease. When she'd offered to show him how to adjust his clutch, he'd looked at her like she'd offered him the moon. When he'd kissed her 3 days later, she'd known her life had changed forever. As they turned from the casket, Eleanor's voice cut through the rain. The children may visit on supervised occasions once appropriate arrangements have been made. 3 days later, Maya stared at eviction papers. Eleanor sat at the dining table like a queen. This house belongs to the family. Marcus was welcome here, but now that he's gone, this was our home. Your children will always have a place in this family, Richard said. But appropriate accommodations must be made. Maya knew what appropriate meant without her. Supervised visits where her children could be molded into proper Rodriguez children. You have until Friday. The locks will be changed at 6 p.m. Maya climbed the stairs to help her children pack into garbage bags. But she'd survived worse than entitled in-laws. They thought they were throwing away garbage. They had no idea they were declaring war. Room 237 at the Sunset Motel. 2 garbage bags held everything they owned. Is this our new house? Sarah asked. It's temporary. The room smelled like disinfectant. 2 double beds, worn carpet. Maya ordered McDonald's for the children. $247 left in her wallet. Rosa Martinez, the motel owner, hired Maya to clean rooms. $8 an hour, cash daily. By weekend, Maya was fixing motorcycles in the parking lot. Carlos paid her $50 for a clutch repair and promised to spread the word. Within 2 weeks, she had steady side business. Construction workers brought their vehicles on weekends. The money wasn't enough to move out, but it started small savings. Big Jim's Harley rumbled into the lot. Got a charging problem. You got time? Rates the same for everyone. She was Maya Rodriguez, and she could fix anything with an engine. 3 months later, Rosa's cousin Eddie Martinez offered Maya a job at his garage. $15 an hour plus commission, nearly double her cleaning wages. When can you start? Maya looked at her sleeping children. 2 weeks. Eleanor Rodriguez held the estate documents like a victory banner. Everything was in order. The house reverted to family trust. Marcus's widow had no legal claim. What about the other properties? All documented under the family trust. Eleanor scanned her social calendar. The country club auction was next month, events where she could hold her head high again. We should plan a proper memorial service, her sister Margaret called. I heard about the housing situation. Probably for the best. Those children need stability. We're planning supervised visits. The children are Rodriguez family after all. Have you considered private schools? Military academy might be good for the boy. The mail included Marcus's life insurance policy. $500,000 plus the accidental death benefit, Richard said with satisfaction. Eleanor nodded. Tomorrow they'd begin renovation planning, school research. They'd rescued the family name and positioned themselves to guide 2 young lives toward appropriate futures. After 6 months at Martinez Auto, Maya was Eddie's lead diagnostic technician. She'd diagnosed a transmission problem that stumped his other mechanics within her first week. You got instincts. Can't teach that. Eddie had a proposition. Need someone to run the diagnostic side. 20% partnership to start. Pay would be double what you're making now. Double her salary would mean real financial security. I'm interested. The business card felt expensive. Whitmore, Sterling and Associates. The man looked completely out of place in Martinez Auto. Mrs. Rodriguez, I'm Jonathan Whitmore. I represent certain legal interests concerning your late husband's estate. That evening, Maya opened the envelope from Marcus's leather jacket. For Maya. Open if something happens to me. Inside were account numbers, passwords, contact information. At the bottom, a handwritten letter. My beautiful Maya, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry for keeping secrets, but I was protecting you from my family. They don't know about the accounts listed here. Offshore trusts they can't touch. Marcus described investments worth hundreds of thousands. The lawyer listed represents my interests independently. His name is Jonathan Whitmore, and you can trust him completely. Marcus had anticipated Eleanor's actions. The business card suddenly felt different, not a threat, but a lifeline. Whitmore's conference table held trust fund documents. $237 million. That's the current valuation of your late husband's offshore portfolio. Maya stared. Marcus worked construction. We lived paycheck to paycheck. Your husband was gifted at investment strategy. He used a different name, Marcus Anthony, for business transactions. His family believed he was working construction. Why didn't he tell me? Fear that his family would discover the money. Fear that knowledge of wealth would change your relationship. Whitmore explained the elaborate structure, offshore trusts, shell corporations. The trigger for revelation was your eviction. Marcus predicted his parents would try to control you through housing pressure. Maya thought about the Sunset Motel. Marcus had given her the chance to discover her own strength. What about Eleanor and Richard? They have no knowledge of these assets. This inheritance exists completely outside their legal reach. Maya's hands shook signing the documents. Whitmore produced a sealed envelope. He asked me to give you this. Marcus's letter explained watching his parents destroy relationships for financial advantage. I wanted to create security my family couldn't touch. The construction job was real, but I was also learning about investments. The hardest part was watching you worry about money. But I needed you to develop your own strength before you had resources that could make you dependent. The letter concluded. By the time you read this, you'll have proven you can provide for our children. That strength is more valuable than any amount of money. I loved you exactly as you were, strong, independent. Use the money wisely, but remember your worth was never measured in dollars. The first transfer deposited $5 million. Less than 3% of her inheritance. Maya met with Rebecca Chin, a financial advisor specializing in life transition wealth management. The most important thing is avoiding the impulse to solve everyone's problems immediately. Sudden generosity often creates complications. They discussed investment strategies, establishing foundations, gradual improvements explainable by garage success. What about my in-laws? They have legal claim to assets they know about, but no rights to holdings they never discovered. The question is how you want that revelation to occur. I want them to realize what they lost through their own behavior. Maya purchased the mansion at 1247 Hillrest Drive, directly across from Eleanor's estate. For 18 months, they'd congratulated themselves on removing her. Now she was closer than ever. $2.8 million, purchased through a shell corporation providing complete anonymity. Mom, this place is huge, Tommy said. Sarah ran from room to room. Can I pick my own room? Can we get a dog? Yes to all three. But we don't tell people how much it cost. We just say Mom's business has been very successful. 2 weeks later, Maya was gardening when Eleanor stared across the street. The women made eye contact. Maya offered a polite wave Eleanor didn't return. That evening, Eleanor's attorney called. Mrs. Rodriguez has asked me to inquire about your property purchase. She's concerned about appropriateness. Mr. Morrison, I own property I purchased legally. If Mrs. Rodriguez has concerns, she's welcome to express them directly. Eleanor was beginning to realize the woman she'd dismissed now possessed resources that posed threats to her social position. The charity gala invitation arrived. Children's Hospital Foundation Annual Benefit. Eleanor Rodriguez was listed as founding patron. Maya called her advisor. I want to donate $1 million. Attributed, and I want a speaking opportunity. Within 48 hours, Dr. Williamson called. We are thrilled by your generous commitment. I'd like to attend your gala, and I understand major donors sometimes have speaking opportunities. We would be honored. Maya visited an exclusive boutique. They selected a midnight blue gown, expensive enough to signal serious resources, understated enough to avoid accusations of inappropriate display. Dr. Williamson said, We're planning to name the new surgical suite in your honor. Will the naming ceremony be part of the gala program? Absolutely. Eleanor had spent months congratulating herself. Saturday night, she would discover the embarrassment had returned with resources dwarfing anything the Rodriguez family had achieved. The microphone felt light as Maya stood before 800 influential philanthropists. At table 12, Eleanor sat frozen, champagne halfway to her lips. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Maya Rodriguez, founding benefactor of the new pediatric cardiac surgical suite at Children's Hospital. Sustained applause. Maya made direct eye contact with Eleanor, whose face had drained of color. 18 months ago, I lost my husband Marcus to sudden cardiac arrest. He was 34 years old, a devoted father. His death taught me that medical intervention can make the difference between tragedy and hope. She gestured toward images of new surgical equipment. The cardiac suite we're dedicating tonight will serve children whose families face the same fear I experienced. Eleanor's neighboring guests leaned toward her with whispered questions. This donation represents the belief that every child deserves access to life-saving care regardless of financial circumstances. Enthusiastic applause. Maya concluded, then moved to her table, positioned where Eleanor would have clear sight lines. Donors approached expressing admiration. Charles Whitman from the University Medical Center Foundation. We'd love to discuss partnership opportunities. During dessert, Eleanor approached with forced politeness. Maya, what a surprise! Maya stood gracefully. Hello, Eleanor. I'm sure it is surprising. I chose to honor Marcus's memory through charitable giving. Eleanor's jaw tightened. Your donation was quite substantial. $1 million seemed appropriate. Marcus would have approved of investing in children's medical care. If Maya could donate such amounts casually, what did her total wealth represent? I had no idea you were financially positioned for such generosity. Maya smiled with quiet confidence. There's quite a lot you didn't know about Marcus or his plans for protecting our family's future. Thank you cards arrived. Dear Mrs. Rodriguez, thank you for saving my heart. Love, Emma Martinez, age 8. Her phone rang constantly since the gala. Foundation boards wanted involvement. Eleanor's attorney left increasingly desperate messages about discussing family matters in a more collaborative spirit. Maya deleted them without responding. Eleanor's definition of collaboration had been demonstrated through 18 months of exclusion. The children adapted remarkably. Tommy's chess tournaments were funded through educational accounts. Sarah discovered theater arts at a prestigious academy. Eddie's office. Got a call from someone representing the Rodriguez family. Wanted to know about our business relationship. What did you tell them? That it's private information and they could talk to our lawyer. They're my former in-laws. They're trying to understand how I've been able to afford lifestyle improvements. And they don't know about whatever inheritance you received. They know about part of Marcus's estate. Not all of it. That afternoon, Eleanor appeared on Maya's porch. Maya, I was wondering if we might speak privately. Maya noted how Eleanor assessed the expensive furnishings. I want to discuss the children's future. Tommy and Sarah deserve opportunities that family resources can provide. Private schools, cultural education, trust funds. That's thoughtful, though I'm curious why you think I can't provide those opportunities myself. Eleanor paused, reassessing. Certainly your business success is impressive, but family resources operate on a different scale. Maya smiled. Eleanor, I think you might be surprised by the scale we're discussing. 1 year later, the Marcus Rodriguez Foundation operated from a renovated warehouse, employing 12 people managing programs supporting single mothers, providing automotive training, and funding medical care. 12 scholarship recipients filed into the conference room, high school and college students whose education was funded through the foundation. Updates were encouraging. Tommy Martinez had been accepted to MIT's engineering program. Angela Foster was developing a nonprofit for mechanical training. David Kim planned to become a pediatric surgeon. Eddie was training 3 new mechanics. The garage operated 2 locations with a waiting list. Big Jim texted. Chapter meeting tonight. Samson wants to thank you again. That evening, Maya reviewed college applications with Tommy. Why did Dad keep the money secret? He wanted to protect us from people who might try to control us because of wealth. And he wanted us to discover our own strength before we had resources that could make us dependent. Did it work? Maya thought about the journey from motel room to mansion. What do you think? Tommy grinned. I think Dad was pretty smart. Sarah appeared. Mom, I finished my essay about heroes. Sarah read about a single mother who rebuilt her life after losing everything, who used unexpected resources to help others. The hero in my story is my mom, because she showed me that being knocked down doesn't mean staying down, and that real success means lifting other people up. Maya pulled both children into a hug encompassing everything they'd survived and built together. Outside, her Harley sat beside Marcus's bike, both maintained in perfect condition. Tomorrow would bring new foundation programs, expanded operations, and continued opportunities to prove that the woman Eleanor Rodriguez had dismissed as trash had become something far more valuable, a force for healing in a world that needed more people who understood the difference between wealth and worth.